The sound of the door still echoes in my memory. It was a December dawn when I woke up with the noise. I was only 11, but that crash frozen me inside. I went down the barefoot stairs, my heart beating unmatching, and saw my mother standing in the room with a document pasted open in the trembling hands. Tears ran down his face, but they were not tears of sadness. It was something different. It was fury. "My God," she whispered, flipping through the papers. "He really did this to me." I will never forget her expression at that moment. It was as if she had discovered that the person who trusted the most in the world had just crashed a knife in the back. He thought the plan was perfect, to silence it forever. But my mother found out, and from that moment, I knew she was going to destroy him with her own hands. My father had left the house that day, saying he was going to solve some office problems. Lie. He had gone to do something much worse. I need to go back a little for you to understand who my mother was. Helena Cristina Santos, 38 at the time, a math teacher for 15 years. A woman who woke up at 5 in the morning every day to prepare our coffee, fix the house, correct tests, and teach private classes in the afternoon to complement the income. She had some magic hands that turned something simple into something special. Her cornmeal cake was famous in the entire neighborhood. When someone was sick, it was always the first to appear with warm soup and a comforting smile. My father, Roberto, worked as an accountant in a medium-sized company, but always complained that the salary could not support the family in the pattern he wanted. The pattern he wanted? We lived in a 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood. We had food on the table every day, and he drove a Corsa 2010. But for him, it was never enough. "Helena, look at Dona Marta's house. Look at Sergio's new car. We live that not even poor here," he said, while my mother washed the dinner dishes she had prepared after a whole day working. My mother was one of those women who miracles with little money. He turned leftover foods into delicious meals, sewing our clothes when they ripped, and always managed to buy our school materials, even when the budget was tight. I remember her spending hours at the kitchen table, calculating and recalculating the house's beads, biting the tip of the pen when the numbers did not close. "Mom, you stay awake until too late," I said, descending to drink water. "It's just a contained, daughter. Back to bed." But I knew it wasn't just a contained one. It was she trying to stretch every penny to make the month close. She dreamed of having her own math course. He had even chosen the name, Space to Know. He kept every penny left over from private lessons in a tin of cookie hidden in the wardrobe. I saw her telling those crumpled notes, separating the coins, noting everything in a blue notebook she kept along. "One day I'll have my own business, daughter," she told me as she stacked the notes for value. "Let's have our independence. You will be able to take that English course you dream. We will be able to travel on vacation." Her eyes shone as she talked about the future. She had even visited some commercial rooms, noted prices, made 1,000 bills to see how many students would need to pay the rent. My father always made little of these dreams of her. "Why do you want this, Helena? Isn't it enough to teach all day? Stay home, take care of the family. This woman wants to be a businesswoman is a thing in her head. Roberto, I just want to have something from me, a business that I can leave to our daughter." "What daughter? She will marry? Leave. What to spend money on these fantasies?" I saw how these words hurt her. My mother lowered her head, kept the papers in silence, but I realized the tears she was trying to hide, but she was stubborn. He continued to gather money, taking courses at a distance of entrepreneurship and management, planning every detail of his future business. She even made a small business plan, all hand, written in a notebook she hid along with the money. He showed me once, proudly. "Look, daughter, I calculated everything. If I got 15 students in the first month, I can already pay the room rental. With 20 students, you can buy teaching material. With 30, she had dreamed of every detail. The whiteboard that was going to buy, the tables for the students, to the plants that would put in the window to make the environment more welcoming, until the strange signs began. First were my father's work meetings that stretched until too late. He who always came home at 6 at point suddenly began to appear at 9, DEZ of the night. "Sorry, love, company problem. Inventory, you know how it is." But the next day I listened to him talking to his co-worker on the phone. "No, yesterday I left at normal time." "Why?" Then came the whispered calls he answered in the backyard. Whenever the cell phone was playing and it was a number he didn't recognize in front of us, he left home to answer. "Hello? Oh, yes. I can't talk now. Then I'll call you." When my mother asked who it was, he always had an excuse. Company customer, supplier, problem with the bank. And especially, sometimes I came home smelling of the different perfume, a sweet floral perfume, which was definitely not my mother's. When she commented, he said it was from some co-worker who had given a farewell hug. But the strangest was the change in his behavior when my mother talked about the cram course. Before he just mocked, did little, said it was silly. Now he was nervous, annoyed, almost aggressive. "Forget this crazy idea, Helena. We have no money for that, and it won't have." "But, Roberto, I've gathered almost 8,000 reais. It's enough to start small in a rented room." 8,000? He was pale. "Where did you take this money from?" "Of my private lessons. You know that. It's 2 years gathering every reel." I was doing a lesson at the kitchen table and witnessed this conversation. My father's face at that moment, it was as if he had seen a ghost. His hands even trembled when he took the glass of water. "Helena, are you sure that's really this amount?" "Of course I'm sure. I note everything, you know. Every particular class, every penny left over the market." He got restless the rest of the night. I saw him walking around the house, looking at his cell phone, as if he was expecting some important connection. 3 days later, my mother found that the money was gone from the can. I will never forget her scream when she opened the wardrobe that afternoon. "Roberto! Roberto! Come here now!" She was holding the can of empty cookie, her hands shaking with despair. I ran to see what had happened. "Mother, what is it?" "The money, daughter. It disappeared, all the money." My father appeared at the bedroom door with a face of whom he had just woke up, even though it was 3 in the afternoon. "What is all this shouting, Helena?" "Roberto, where's my money? I left 8,300 reais here. It disappeared everything." "What money? I don't know what you're talking about." The coldness in his voice shivered me. It was as if he was talking about time, not about my mother's dream of my mother who had just disappeared. "Don't play with me. It was all I had gathered for the cram. 2 years of my life keeping a penny per penny. Helena, you have been very stressed lately. You may have forgotten where you kept." "Forgotten?" She shouted so much that the neighbors must have heard. "I tell this money every week. He was here last night." "Calm down, woman. You don't have to do this scandal. Let's look right." My mother was desperate, rolled the whole house looking. It opened each drawer, every closet, every corner where it could have put the money and forgotten. He cried all night, sitting on the bed, holding the empty can. And my father? He slept as if nothing had happened. I listened to him snoring in the room next door while my mother sobbed softly, but the worst was yet to come. A week later, my mother received a real estate call where she had consulted commercial room prices. "Dona Helena, can you spend here today? There are some documents that need to be signed referring to that room that Mr. Roberto rented on his behalf." My mother almost dropped the phone. I was on her side when he answered and saw all the color disappeared from her face. "What do you mean? What room? I didn't rented anything." "But aren't you the wife of Mr. Roberto Santos? He came here last week, said he was renting a commercial room for the lady to open a math course, until she paid 3 months in advance." The world collapsed over my mother's head at that moment. She hung up the phone and stood in the middle of the kitchen, looking at me like I could have answers. But I was just an 11-year-old girl who didn't understand what was happening. "Daughter, your father, did he get my money and rented a room without warning me?" "I don't know, Mom. Maybe he wanted to surprise." But even I, 11, knew that it made no sense. If it was a surprise, why had he denied everything? Why had you let my mother cry all week? That afternoon, while my father was at work, she went to the real estate. He returned home with a folder full of documents and an expression I had never seen before, mix of anger, pain, and something that only years later I managed to identify: determination. She sat at the kitchen table and started reading every paper, each line, every word. From time to time he sighed deep, or shaking his head negatively. "Mother, what are you in these roles?" "Lies, daughter. Many lies." When my father came home that night, she was sitting in the living room, waiting. I had changed my clothes, hairstyle my hair, and had a posture that I had never seen before. High, firm, like a person who had made a very important decision. "Roberto, we need to talk." "I'm tired, Helena. Leave it tomorrow." "No, it's now." Her voice was different, firm, powerful. "Sit here." He must have realized that something was wrong, because he sat without complaining. I kept peeling from the stairs, afraid to go down but unable to climb. "Can you explain what this is?" She showed the documents. His face changed completely. It turned white, then red, then started stuttering like a child caught in the act. "Helena, I can explain. You stole my money and rented a room in my name without me know." "What?" I wanted to surprise you." "Lie." Her voice was cold as ice. "Speak the truth. Why did you rent this room?" It was at this moment that I realized. My father was not just nervous, he was terrified. As if I had been caught doing something very, very wrong. His hands trembled. His voice was embargoed. "Helena, you won't understand. Try to explain to me. I'm a math teacher, I'm not stupid." He was silent for a few seconds that looked like hours. Then he got up, went to the window, stared at the dark street, and said something that shivered me all. "Some things you better not know. It's for your own good." My mother got up too, went to him, picked up his arm and forced him to look into her eyes. "Roberto, I'll find out what you are hiding, even if it's the last thing I do in my life." Her voice at that moment was no longer from my sweet mother and patient. It was from a woman who had been betrayed, humiliated, and was ready for war. At that moment, climbing the stairs to my room, I didn't know that my mother had already begun to investigate what my father was plotting on her back, and that what she was going to find out would be much worse than any of us could imagine. The next day, while arranging his clothes to wash, I found a forgotten business card in the coat pocket. Dr. Patricia Mendez, divorce specialist lawyer. My heart froze. I showed my mother, who just smiled in a way I had never seen before. A smile that didn't come to the eyes. Thank you, daughter. It helps me a lot. Let's see. So guys, do you think my mother managed to find out the whole truth? What do you think my father was planning to do with that rented room? And this divorce lawyer? Leave in the comments what you imagine will happen. If you are enjoying this story, leave the like and subscribe to the channel. The continuation is coming, and you will not believe what I found out about my father's plans. The divorce lawyer card changed everything. After I showed my mother, she got different. It was no longer that desperate woman crying for the lost money. She was a researcher determined to discover the truth. And I, even being a child, turned your partner on this mission without even realizing it. Daughter, starting today, you will help me observe your father's behavior. But this is between us. Understand? I nodded, even without fully understanding what was happening. I just knew my mother needed my help. This is how I began to notice things that once went unnoticed, like the fact that my father always keeps his cell phone down when he got home, or how it took an eternity in the bathroom, always taking the phone along. Before I thought it was normal. Now, paying attention, I realized that it was almost 40 minutes locked inside, and always came out with the face of those who had just resolved something very important. Mom, Dad is taking a long time in the bathroom again, I whispered when she was making dinner. What time did he come in? 7:15. Write it down. She pointed to a notebook that now lived in the kitchen drawer. And keep an eye when he leaves. It was strange to spy on my own father, but my mother seemed so determined that I didn't question. When he left the bathroom, I always heard the sound of my cell phone being saved quickly in my pocket. One night, as he watched television in the room, I heard a conversation on the phone that froze me. No, she doesn't suspect anything yet. Yes, I took care of everything. The money is safe. She will have to accept, has no choice, as we agreed. I ran to the kitchen where my mother washed the dishes. Mother, Dad is talking about telemoney phone. He said she will have to accept. My mother's hands stopped rubbing the plate. She closed the tap and was silent for a few seconds. Did he say anything else? Who took care of everything and that the money is safe? At that moment, I saw tears in her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. It was pure anger. Daughter, your father thinks I'm silly, but he'll find out that he was completely mistaken. It was at this time that I started to remember things that at the time they made no sense, but now they fit perfectly into the puzzle my mother was writing. I remembered the time, 3 months earlier, when we got home after a party at school and found my father talking to a woman on our porch, a tall brunette, about 35, very well arranged, using a perfume that could be felt from afar. Who is she, Roberto? My mother asked as we got out of the car. Ah, it's Patricia, a company colleague who came to seek some documents. Such Patricia greeted my mother with a forced smile and left quickly. I remember finding it strange someone to come to get documents on a Sunday night, but I was a child, so I let it pass. Now, connecting with the Dr. Patricia Mendez, divorce specialist lawyer business card, everything made sense. Mom, I remembered one thing. There was a woman here at home on Sunday after the school party. Dad said she was a coworker, but her name was Patricia. My mother's face went white. Are you sure? How do you remember the name? Because I found it beautiful. And she smelled the perfume very strong. That sweet perfume that sometimes comes in your father's clothes when he arrives late? Exactly. My mother wrote down everything in the notebook. With each discovery, it became more determined. It was as if each piece of the puzzle increased its strength, instead of knocking it over. But what impressed me most was how I could act normally in front of my father. During the day, she was the ordinary wife. She made food, got the house, asked about his work, but I saw her eyes that inside she was boiling. One afternoon, while my father was at work, she called me to a serious conversation. Daughter, sit here with me. I need to tell you something. We sat on the living room couch. She held my hands and took a deep breath. Your father is planning to separate from me, but not an honest way. He's trying to leave me with nothing. What do you mean, Mom? That room he rented with my money? It's not for my cram, it's a trap. And that lawyer who came here? She's not her father's co-worker. She specializes in divorce. Even at the age of 11, I was able to understand the severity of the situation. Do you mean that Daddy is lying to you? Much worse than that, daughter. He is trying to fool me so I can sign roles that I don't understand, lose all my rights, and be left with nothing when he leaves me. My mother's chest climbed and descended quickly, as if she was controlling her anger not to explode in front of me. But I discovered his plan, and now I'm going to turn the game. It was at this moment that I understood. My father thought the plan was perfect, to silence it forever. But my mother found out, and now she was going to destroy him with her own hands. What are you going to do? I'm going to play his own game against him, but I need evidence. many evidence. From that day, our house became a true research center. My mother began to write down everything. Times my father came out, people who called, conversations she could hear, lies he told. She found that my father had transferred a considerable amount of their joint account to an account she didn't know. When she questioned the bank, they said she had authorized the transfer, but she had never signed anything. "How is it possible to transfer money from my account without me knowing?" she asked the manager. "Madam, here is your signature in the authorization." My mother analyzed the roll. The signature was perfect, but she was absolutely sure she had never signed that. "This is not my lyrics," she insisted. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we have graphics that confirmed authenticity." When we left the bench, my mother was shaking with anger. "Daughter, his father falsified my signature. This is a crime. How could he imitate so well? He has lived with me for 15 years. He sees my signature in documents, checks, everything. It's not hard to learn to copy." But the worst was yet to come. One night, pretending to be sleeping, I listened to my parents talking in the room. The door was ajar, and I managed to hear everything. "Helena, you need to sign these rolls here." "What rolls are these, Roberto?" "It's about the room that I rented for you. Just a formality to regularize everything." "Yeah, let me read first." "No need to read, woman. It's just bureaucracy. Signs as soon as I'm tired." "Roberto, I won't sign anything without reading." His voice changed completely. It was aggressive, intimidating. "Helena, you will sign these rolls now. It's for your own good." "What if I don't want to?" "You have no choice." The silence that followed was terrifying. Then I heard the sound of papers being torn, and my mother saying with a firmness that I had never heard before, "I won't sign anything I don't understand. And if you try to force me, it will be very bad." My dad came out knocking on the bedroom door. The next day, I found my mother in the kitchen, gluing the pieces of ripped papers with tape. "Mother, what is it?" "It's the proof I needed, daughter." When she finished necklace, she showed me. It was a document transferring all the goods from the house to the name of my father, including the exclusive possession of the residence. If she had signed, she would lose the right to the house where we lived. "Your father is trying to leave me literally on the street, daughter. But this is a lot of wickedness." "It's worse than wickedness. It's cruelty calculated." At that moment, watching my mother study every line of that document, I understood that she was no longer the victim of history. She had turned the hunter. A few days later, she told me that she had sought a lawyer on her own, not to divorce, but to protect yourself. "Dr. Fernanda, I need your help. My husband is trying to steal me everything." The lawyer analyzed all the documents my mother had gathered: the unauthorized bank transfers, the rented room contract without consent, the torn document he wanted her to sign. "Donna Helena, what her husband is doing is not just unethical. She's criminal. Can I prove it all?" With this evidence? Perfectly. When we returned home that day, my mother was different, trusting, powerful. "Daughter, from today, things will change in this house." And they really changed. That night, during dinner, my father tried to pull the subject of the papers again. "Helena, about those documents." "What documents, Roberto?" she asked with a pretended innocence that I even realized. "The rolls of the room. You need to sign." "Oh, yes. I showed a lawyer today. Very interesting, the content." My father's fork stopped halfway to the mouth. "Did you showed a lawyer?" "Of course. As I didn't understand what was written, I thought it best to ask for a professional opinion." "And what did she say?" My mother's smile at that moment was the scariest and most satisfactory thing I've ever seen in my life. She said it is very interesting for a husband to try to transfer all goods to his own name without his wife know. My father was pale as a deceased. Guys, are you seeing how my mother was discovering the whole scam? But what do you think she was planning to do with this information? And how did my father react when he realized he had been discovered? Leave in the comments what you think will happen. If you are loving this story as much as I love telling, leave the like and subscribe to the channel. The next block comes with every revelation you will not believe. From that dinner, our house became a disguised battlefield. My father said nothing more about the documents that night. He simply finished eating in silence and went to lock himself in the office. But my mother and I knew that silence was dangerous. It was the silence of those who were planning the next attack, and it didn't take long to find out that we were right. The next day, my mother received a call that changed everything. "Helena, here is Dr. Patricia Mendez. I need to talk to you urgently." It was the same woman who had come to our house, my father's divorce lawyer. My mother put on the lively to listen. "We have nothing to talk to," my mother replied, cold as ice. "Yes, it's about your husband. He hired me for a divorce process, but there are some things you should know before it's too late." "What kind of things?" "I can't talk by phone. Can you find me this afternoon? It's important." My mother hesitated. I saw it on her face that was suspicious but also curious. "Why would you do that? Don't you work for him?" "I worked, until I found out he lied about a lot of things, and I don't like it when my clients make me idiot." That afternoon, while my father was at work, We went to Dr. Patricia in a cafe in the city center. She was very different from when she came to our house. Less tidy, more nervous. Donna Helena, your husband is a very dangerous man. Like this? He hired me saying that you were going to divorce by mutual agreement, that you already knew everything, that everything was solved. But yesterday I found out that you do not know, and nothing. My mother leaned forward in the chair. Did you find out how? He asked me to falsify his signature on some documents. When I refused, he said he had done it before and worked perfectly. That's when I understood what kind of person he is. The blood disappeared from my mother's face. What documents? Transfer of goods? Opening bank accounts? Even authorization to sell this house without your knowledge. Sell the house? But the house is in the name of the two. No more. He transferred to his name using a fake power of attorney with his signature. I felt my mother shake beside me, but it was not fear. It was pure anger. Can he do that? Legally? No. But if no one wonders, the sale happens normally, and when you find out, it's too late. How long do I have? The house has been on sale for 2 weeks. He has found a buyer. The deed is scheduled for next Monday. My mother was silent for a few seconds. Then he asked, "Why are you telling me that?" "Because I have 2 children your age," she pointed to me. "And because I don't accept being an accomplice of a cowardly blow against a family." When we returned home, my mother was transformed. It was no longer the cautious researcher of recent days. It was a warrior in attack mode. "Daughter, your father thought the plan was perfect. To silence me forever, leave me with nothing. No home, no rights. But he made a mistake. Underestimated his mother." She took the phone and called Dr. Fernanda, the lawyer she had sought. "Doctor, I need an urgent measure. My husband is trying to sell our house without my knowledge." "Yes, I have evidence." "No, he doesn't know I found." As she spoke, I wondered how my father could be so fake. I came home every day, had dinner with us, watching television, as if nothing was happening, as if they were not planning to destroy our family. That night, during dinner, he even asked about our day. "How was your day?" "Normal," my mother answered, cutting the meat with a scary calm. "And your? How do you go business in the office?" You know how it is. Always run. I imagine. You must take a lot of work to take care of so many important documents." I saw my father choke lightly with the water. "Yeah, there is always documents to take care of. Glad you are so careful with paperwork. It's an important quality in a man." The sarcasm in my mother's voice was so subtle that my father didn't even notice. But I realized, and I understood that she was playing with him like a cat plays with a rat before attacking. After dinner, while my father watched television, my mother called me in the room. "Daughter, tomorrow is Saturday. Your father will leave in the morning, as always does. When he leaves, we will turn this house behind more evidence." "What kind of evidence?" "Contracts, bank documents, anything that proves what he is doing." "What if he finds out?" "You won't find out, because we'll be very careful." On Saturday morning, my father left saying he was going to solve some things in the city. As soon as his car disappeared from the corner, we started our archaeological operation, as my mother called. We found a lot. In the locked drawer of his office, my mother knew where he hid the key. There was a folder with documents that shocked us. House sales contracts already signed, with its signing falsified. Statements from a bank account that she did not know with more than 50,000 Rs deposited. And worst of all, a printed WhatsApp conversation between him and someone named Carlos. "Carlos, all right for Monday?" "All right. Your wife will be dumped from the house on Tuesday. Do you already have an apartment to live in?" "I already decided." She turns around. "After 15 years holding this woman, I will finally get rid of it. And the girl? The girl is with me. It's my daughter. I have rights. And after proving that the mother has nowhere to live, I get the easy guard." "You're cold, huh? Don't feel anything for Helena?" "I feel angry to have lost 15 years of my life, but now it's over. She'll see what it's like to be left with nothing." When my mother finished reading, her hands were shaking. "My God, he doesn't just want to separate. He wants to destroy me completely. Mom, he said he'll try to get my guard, over my corpse." At that moment, I saw a determination in my mother's eyes that I had never seen before. It was as if she had found a force she didn't even know existed. "Daughter, photograph everything. Every document, every conversation, every voucher." We spent 2 hours photographing evidence. It was so much that my cell phone was almost without memory. When we ended, my mother kept everything exactly as she was and sat with me in the room. "Now you understand why I needed to investigate all?" "I understand, Mother, but what are you going to do?" "I will use his own weapons against him. Your father thinks I'm a naive little woman who doesn't know how to defend himself. Monday he'll find out how she was wrong." When my father returned home, my mother was in the kitchen preparing lunch, humming softly. She was so happy that she even surprised. "You're very excited today." "Yes. You know, Roberto, I woke up today thinking about how life can surprise us, like this, sometimes, when we least expect it. We discover things that change everything. Isn't it amazing? He stared at her with a confused expression. I didn't understand. You'll understand soon, I'm sure. That Sunday, our house was strangely quiet. My father watched football in the living room. My mother organized papers in her bedroom, and I did a lesson. It looked like a normal Sunday, but we all knew it was calm before the storm. At night, when I was already lying down, I heard my parents talking in the hall. Helena, Monday I'm going out early. I have some important meetings. Important meetings? What kind of meetings? Business. You wouldn't understand. Of course not. I'm just a teacher. I don't understand important business like you. My mother's tone was loaded with irony, but my father didn't notice. Exactly. That's why you better not worry. It only takes care of the house, and the girl I take care of the serious affairs. You can leave, Roberto. You take care of your serious affairs, that I take care of mine. What serious subjects do you have? You will find out tomorrow. On Monday morning, my father left home at 7 o'clock, tidy like never before, looking like who will sign the business of life. At 8 o'clock, my mother woke me up. Daughter, gets up. Today is the day your mother will show her father what it means to mess with the wrong woman. We had coffee quickly and left home. On the way to the registry, yes, she discovered where the signature would be. My mother explained the plan to me. His father marked the sale of the house to 9 o'clock. He thinks he will get there, sign the papers, take the money, and that's it. When he gets home, he'll tell me that we were dumped. And then is the surprise. Dr. Fernanda has already entered a court measure yesterday. The sale cannot happen. And there is more. What? Your father will be arrested. We arrived at registry office 9:15. When we entered, we saw my father sitting on a table with a man in suit, who should be the buyer, and the clerk. They had their documents open, ready to sign. My father's astonishment face when he saw us was priceless. Helena, what are you doing here? I came to stop a crime, my mother replied, loud enough for everyone in the registry office to listen. What crime? What are you talking about? That's when Dr. Fernanda entered, accompanied by 2 police officers. Mr. Roberto Santos, you are arrested for falsification of document and estelionato. Guys, did you see my father's face when you realized you were caught in the act? But do you think prison was the end of the story? Or did my father still have more letters on his sleeve? Leave in the comments what you think happened next. And if you are addicted to this story how I remembered everything, leave the like and subscribe to the channel. The next block will show the most epic turn you have ever seen. Seeing my handcuffed father in front of everyone was one of the most shocking and satisfactory images of my life. This is a misunderstanding, he shouted, as the police explained his rights. Helena, tell them that this is a misunderstanding. My mother was standing next to the notary's table with her arms crossed, watching everything with a calm that impressed to the police. There was no anger on her face. There was no sadness. There was a calculated coldness that gave me goosebumps. The only misunderstanding here, Roberto, was that you think I was an idiot. Helena, for God's sake, explain to them. Explain what? What did you fake my signature? What did my money have stolen? What did you try to sell our house without me knowing? What did you lie to everyone for months? Her voice echoed through the silent notary. Everyone stopped to watch. The buyer of the house, who until then thought he was closing a nice deal, was pale to understand that he almost bought a stolen property. Sir, the policeman told the buyer, you will need to give testimony as well, as a possible victim of estelionato. It was at this moment that my father realized the size of what was happening. It was not just the prison. It was the complete public exhibition. Helena, you don't know what you are doing. This will destroy our family. Family? She laughed without humor. What family, Roberto? The family you were going to leave leaving us on the street? The family you were going to separate by taking my daughter out of me? When she mentions or the guard part, I saw the total despair take over my father. Where you took the conversations of your WhatsApp with Carlos. I have everything, Roberto. Every lie, every plan, every detail of what you were setting up. The registry office, a lady of a 60-year-old, shook her head with disapproval. In 30 years working here, I've never seen such a thing. What a shame. And it was this phrase that completely broke my father's composure. Until then, he was still trying to look victim of some misconception. But when the most respected registry office called him shameful in front of everyone, he collapsed. Helena, please, we can talk. We can solve it. Now do you want to talk? My mother's voice went up. Where was this desire to talk when you were planning to leave me with nothing? When I was telling Carlos that I would come to me? When was I falsifying my signature? The policeman who was handcuffing my father stopped and looked at him with disgust. Man, what kind of man does this with his own family? You don't understand. I had no choice. Has no choice? My mother approached him. You didn't have the choice of being honest, to talk to me, to ask divorce as a decent person? It was at this moment that I fully understood what my mother had done. She not only discovered my father's plan, she let him run almost everything. gathered all the possible evidence, and in the last second, when he thought he had won, she turned the game completely. He thought the plan was perfect, to silence it forever, but she found out and destroyed him with his own hands. When we left the registry, a small crowd had formed on the sidewalk. News of prison in a small town spreads fast, and some people were already commenting. It's Helena, the teacher of the municipal school. Poor. The husband tried to steal her house. What a shameless man. My mother greeted some known people, but did not stop to explain. It was focused on solving the next steps. Doctor, Fernanda, what happens now? Now your husband will answer for falsification of document, estelionato, and attempted heritage fraud. These are crimes that can give up to 8 years in prison. And the house? The house remains yours. All the counterfeit documents have been annulled. He can do nothing anymore without his permission. As they talked, I looked at my mother with an admiration I couldn't express. She was the same woman who 3 months ago cried in the kitchen because she had lost the cram money. But now he was there, standing, victorious, having defeated a man who thought he could manipulate her forever. In the afternoon, when we got home, the phone kept ringing. The news had spread throughout the city. Helena, it's Dona Marta here from the corner. I wanted to tell you that I always knew that this man was no good. Helena, it's the school principal. If you need something, you can count on me. Helena, it's your sister. I just knew. I'm going there now. Each connection made my mother more emotional. She was finding that she had much more support than she imagined. When my aunt arrived, it was a very special moment. Helena, my sister, I always knew you were strong, but what you did, wow, you're a warrior. I had no choice, Sonia. He was going to destroy me. No, Helena, you had a choice, yes. You could have surrendered. You accepted the destination he set for you, but you fought, and you won. That night we dinner for the first time in months, without that tension in the air, without fear, no secrets, no pretending. My mother told my aunt every detail of the investigation she had done. Sonia, there were times when I thought about giving up. It was a lot of evil for one person, but you didn't give up. I couldn't. It was my daughter who was at stake too. When they talked about me, I wanted to cry. During all that confusion, I had not completely realized that my mother was fighting not only for her, but for me too. Mom, I didn't know he wanted to get my guard out. Daughter, I was never going to let this happen. Never. The determination in her voice made me understand that everything she had done, all that silent war, had been to protect our family. But our peace was short-lived. The next morning we received an unexpected visit. It was Carlos, my father's friend who appeared in WhatsApp conversations. Dona Helena, can I talk to you? What do you want here? It's about Roberto. He asked me to come here. He's stuck. There's nothing to talk to me. Yes, ma'am. He said that if you do not remove the complaint, it will reveal some things about the lady who will destroy her reputation. My mother stayed at the door without inviting him to enter. What kind of things? Some photographs, some documents, things that will stain your name forever. I saw my mother's expression change. For the first time since it all started, she looked shaken. What photographs? You know what I'm talking about. Those from the time you dated, when you were more liberal. The word liberal sounded like an insult leaving his mouth. Roberto kept all these years. He said that if he had one day, he was going to use against you. My mother was pale. I didn't understand exactly what they were talking about, but I realized it was something that deeply moved her. He's blackmailing you through me, Carlos continued. Remove the complaint, or tomorrow the whole city will see the photos. When he left, my mother sat in the room and was silent for a long time. Mother, what were those photographs? Nothing a lot, daughter. Ancient photographs of when we were boyfriends, but in his hands, they can be used to humiliate me. Are you going to withdraw the complaint? She looked at me for a few seconds. Then he got up, went to the phone, and dialed a number. Dr. Fernanda, I'm Helena. I need to talk to you urgently. My husband is trying to blackmail me now. When she hung up, I asked, what are you going to do? I will show your father that you do not know who is moving with yet. As? The smile that appeared on her face at that moment was the most dangerous I've ever seen. Daughter, your father thinks there are hidden cards to play, but he doesn't know I have it too. What letters? Tomorrow you'll find out. And so does he. That night she spent hours on the phone with the lawyer, planning something. And by the tone of his voice, I knew that my father had made a serious mistake. To think that I could intimidate my mother, now that she had proved her own power. Guys, do you think my dad managed to blackmail my mother with these photographs? What letters do you think she had hidden? And how did this whole war end? If you are eager to find out the end of this story as much as I look forward to tell, leave the like and subscribe to the channel. The last block is coming and will be the most shocking of all. The bomb my mother was preparing exploded the next morning. I woke up with the sound of the phone ringing insistently. It was early. It was no more than 7 o'clock, but my mother was already awake, sitting on the kitchen table with several paid papers. and an expression that I will never forget. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was the face of those who were about to give the final blow. "Hello, Carlos. I'm Helena. You can tell Roberto that I agree to talk to him, but it will be in my terms." "What do you mean, in your terms? He wants to play dirty? So let's play dirty. But let him know that when I finish, he will beg to go back to that jail." When she hung up, she sat with me for coffee. There was a determination in her eyes that gave me goosebumps. It was as if she had kept all the anger and humiliation of recent months to explode at once. "Mother, are you sure what you are doing?" "Daughter, his father thought he knew all my weaknesses, but he forgot that I know his own, and I know very well." She took one of the table folders and showed me. It was at least 5 inches thick, full of documents, photographs, and notes. 2 years ago, I suspected he was cheating on me, but I didn't imagine the extension. When he started with this whole scam to steal my money, I hired a private detective. "A detective? How did you get money for it?" "Daughter, those 8,000 reais he stole from me, it was just a bait. I had 23,000 kept elsewhere. I have been gathering for 5 years, without him knowing. I was shocked. My mother had been much smarter than I imagined." "Do you let him steal on purpose?" "Of course. How was I going to prove that he was a thief if he didn't let him steal? Every movement in recent months has been calculated by me." At 2 in the afternoon, we went to find my father in jail. The place smelled of the disinfectant and hopelessness. There were other families visiting prisoners, some women crying, children asking when Dad was going home. It was an environment that left me with my stomach wrapped. My father was different. Unhealthy hair, beard to do, the bullied clothes, the red eyes of those who have not slept properly for days. But when she saw my mother, she tried to recover that usual arrogant stance. "Helena, I'm glad you came. Let's solve this as civilized people." "Me civilized?" My mother laughed, but it was a moodless laugh. "How to falsify my signature, how to try to steal me, how to blackmail me with old photographs." Helena lowers the voice. "There are people listening. May I hear? I don't have nothing else to hide, but you have." That's when she placed the giant paste on the metal table between them. The noise echoed through the visiting room. "Roberto, do you remember Claudia?" The color disappeared from my father's face when she mentioned that name. He was so pale that for a moment I thought it was going to pass out. What Claudia?" "Claudia you have kept for 3 years. Claudia, which has been 5 months pregnant. Claudia, to whom you transferred 40,000 reais from our account. This Claudia." I had never heard that name before, but by my father's reaction, I understood that it was the missing piece in the puzzle. His hands began to tremble visually. "Helena, like you. How did I find out?" "Roberto, do you think I've been a researcher for just 2 months? I have known your schedules, your habits, your lies for years. I was just waiting for the right time." She opened the folder and started taking pictures one by one, putting on the table like cards. "Here you leave her apartment at Rua das Flores, 245, apartment 302. That coincidentally you rented in my name, without me know, using counterfeit documents. Here you two at the supermarket, buying baby things, with the marital credit card, of course. Here you leave a children's furniture store. Guess who will pay the crib benefit?" Each photograph was like a slap on his face. I saw my father shrink in the chair, as if I wanted to disappear. "And there is more. Here is the health plan contract you made for her. Guess in the name of?" "Helena, I can explain." "Explain this here then." She showed other rolls, organized in color, separated folders. "Here are the bank extracts of an account you opened using my documents. Do you know how much there is? 80,000 reais. Money you diverted during years of our joint account." Her voice was controlled, but I realized the satisfaction in each word. It was as if she is savoring revenge. "Here is the proof of loan you made in my name to buy a car for her. A Honda Civic Zero. Very beautiful, by the way. And best of all, here is the deed of a house you bought for her. In my name. I am officially owner of your lover's house." At that moment, my father collapsed completely. Tears began to run down his face, and he began to sob like a child. "Helena, for God's sake, if you disclose this, I'm over." "Now, are you worried about being over? Where was this concern when planning to leave me on the street?" "I was never going to leave you on the street. I was going to give a pension." "What a pension, Roberto? What money? You spent everything on Claudia." The policeman who was supervising the visit approached our table, interested in the conversation. "Is there a problem here?" "No problem, official," my mother answered calmly. "I'm just showing my husband some surprises I found." It was at this time that I understood why my mother was so confident. She had not just discovered the betrayal. She had discovered that my father had committed a series of crimes to support double life. "Roberto, you falsified my signature in at least 15 different documents, opened accounts, loans, bought real estate, hired services, all in my name. But I did it to support your lover while destroying our family." She continued to take documents from the folder, as if it were an infinite arsenal. "Here is the contract of a credit card in my name you gave it to use. Limit of 10,000 reais. Guess who will pay the invoice? Here is her enrollment in a private college. Administration course. Time of 800 reais. In my name, of course. And here, she held a roll with particular satisfaction, is the contract of a VIP medical agreement for her and the baby. 5,000 reais per month. Also in my name. The policeman was increasingly interested. Dona Helena, what are these documents? It is evidence that my husband has committed much more crimes than you imagine, official. Do you want to register one more occurrence? I want. Document forgery on at least 15 occasions, misuse of identity, diversion of marital funds, estellionate against financial institutions, and misappropriation. My father looked at her with total despair. Helena, are you crazy? This will give me a jail for me. I should have thought of it before. But what about Claudia? She's pregnant. Your problem. And hers. I have nothing to do with it. Helena, please, we have a daughter. Think of our daughter. It was at this time that my mother got up and looked into his eyes with a coldness that shivered me. Now, do you remember you have a daughter? When you were planning to get her guard out of me, did you think of it? When she was spending her education money with another woman, did you think about her? I was never going to get her out of you, really. It was just to scare you. Lie. I read your conversations with Carlos. You would really try to stay with her, not to pay pension. She took the cell phone and showed prints from the conversations. Here you are saying, I will claim that Helena is unable to raise the girl. No house, no money. It will be easy to get the guard. Remember this conversation? My father couldn't even deny it anymore. It was completely defeated. Helena, what do you want? Money? I return everything. I don't want your dirty money, Roberto. I want justice. What kind of justice? First thing, you will publicly assume everything you did. Go on the city radio and tell the whole truth. Helena, this will end with me. Second thing, you will return every penny that stole. If you don't have money, it sells Claudia's house, which is coincidentally in my name. And third thing, you will voluntarily renounce our daughter's guard and never try to blackmail me or threaten me. What if I don't do that? My mother smiled that dangerous way I already knew. If you don't do it, I send all these proofs to your boss, to the clients of the company where you work, to the family of Claudia, and to all our neighbors. Then you will find out what it is to be really over. And there is one more thing, she continued, taking another document from the folder. I've already filed a litigious divorce. You'll lose everything. The only difference is whether it will be public or privately. My father was silent for a few minutes. I could almost hear his thoughts, trying to find a way that didn't exist. And the photographs? Are you not afraid that I publicize? Disclose. I was 18 when we were dating. You were 25. If anyone will be ill with a teenager's photographs, it's you, not me. The expression of total defeat on my father's face was the most satisfactory thing I've ever seen. You won, Helena. I didn't win, Roberto. I defended myself. There's a difference. When we got out of jail, my mother was transformed. He walked erect, spoke loudly, greeted people on the street as if he had just been reborn. It was as if she had taken a weight of 1,000 pounds from her back. Mother, how did you get all this? Daughter, Dr. Fernanda indicated me an excellent private detective. For 2 months he followed his father, photographed everything, investigated each movement. And it was expensive? It cost 3,000 reais. Best investment I made in my life. We got home, and my mother did something she hadn't done for months. She prepared a tasty snack, and we sat on the table to talk like a normal family. Daughter, do you understand now why I couldn't tell you everything? I understand, Mother, but it must have been very difficult to pretend I didn't know anything. It was the hardest I've ever done in my life. There were nights that I cried with anger in the bathroom, biting the towel not to scream. Did you never think of giving up? I thought, especially when I found out about Claudia's pregnancy. It was a punch in the stomach. How did you discover that? The detective brought me her pictures coming out of the obstetrician, belly already appearing. That day, I almost gave up on everything. What made the lady continue? You, daughter. The idea of him trying to get you out of me gave me a strength that I didn't even know I had. A week later, my father appeared on local radio as promised. The whole city stopped to listen. My mother and I sat in the room, with the radio in the last volume. Good afternoon, guys. I'm Roberto Santos, and I come here to make a public confession. I betrayed my wife for 3 years, stole money from her, falsified documents in her name, and tried to leave my family on the street to support my lover. My ex-wife, Helena, is an honest and hardworking woman who did nothing I did. His voice was embargoed, clearly crying. It was humiliating and satisfactory at the same time. When the program was over, the phone kept ringing. Everyone wanted to congratulate my mother for the courage. Helena, you are an example for all women. Helena, what the courage. You are a warrior. Helena, your daughter must be very proud of you. And I really had. Very proud. In the following days, the story spread throughout the city. My mother became a kind of local heroine. Women began to look for her to tell her own stories of betrayal and ask for advice. Dona Helena, my husband is also weird. How did you find out? Donna Helena? Can you name me that detective? Donna Helena? Do you think I should forgive or go to the fight? My mother served all with patience and affection. It was as if I was found a new mission in life. 3 months later, we were already living in a new but cozy house, bought with the money she recovered from my father's secret account. The house had 3 bedrooms, a large room, and a backyard where my mother planted a beautiful garden. Daughter, this house is our real. No one can get us out of here. It's very beautiful, Mother. And look, she showed me a small plate next to the gateway. No space. Math course. She had finally realized the dream. The course worked in the front room of our house. In 6 months, I already had a queue, not just for the excellent classes, but for the history of overcoming Professor Helena. Donna Helena, my son doesn't want to study with anyone else. He says that only the lady teaches right. Donna Helena, after my daughter started studying here, her grades improved a lot. Donna Helena, you are inspiration to me. If you have been able to start your life at 38, I can also. The knowing space became a reference in the city, not just for classes, but for the history of overcoming Professor Helena, who had overcome an unfair war and resumed her life with her head erected. My father was sentenced to 2 years in prison, but was in a semi-open regime. He worked during the day at a small accounting company and slept in the penitentiary. Claudia had the baby and disappeared from the city shortly after delivery, leaving the child with her mother. My father today lives in a rented kitchenette and works as a self-employed accountant, gaining 1/3 of what he earned before. From time to time, he tries to call me, but I don't answer. Some people ask me if I pity him. The answer is no. I have no pity for those who plan coldly destroy a family. One afternoon, about 6 months after everything was over, my mother and I were organizing class things when an unexpected visit arrived. It was Claudia. She was very thin, with deep dark circles, and seemed to have aged 10 years. He knocked on the door shyly. Donna Helena, can I talk to you? My mother hesitated, but let her in. I came to ask for forgiveness. I didn't know he was lying about everything. Like this? He told me that you had been separated for 2 years. It was just a matter of time to make it official. I would never have involved if I knew the truth. My mother heard her in silence. I lost everything because of him. The apartment, the car, was all in the name of the lady. When I found out, it was too late. And the baby? It's with my mother. I can't afford it. I'm trying to start over, working as a cleaning lady. At that moment,